The invitation sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days before I finally opened it. Cream colored cardstock, expensive weight, embossed gold lettering announcing my brother Marcus's wedding. I traced the elegant script with my finger, noting the date, 3 weeks away, and the lack of a +1 option beside my name. That wasn't what made my hands tremble, though. It was the handwritten note paper clipped to the corner. Don't make a scene, Mom. 10 years, 10 years since I'd been more than a ghost at family gatherings, occupying the corner seat at Thanksgiving, receiving perfunctory birthday texts, watching from the margins as my family celebrated every milestone, every achievement, every moment that mattered, without me truly being part of it. 10 years since the day everything changed, and I became the daughter they tolerated rather than treasured. I was 23 when it happened. Fresh out of college with a degree in social work and dreams of making a difference, I came home one evening to find my parents sitting stiff-backed on the living room sofa, my older brother Marcus beside them wearing an expression I couldn't read. According to YouTube analytics, 99% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. My father's face was carved from stone. My mother's eyes were red-rimmed but dry, as if she'd exhausted her tears and moved on to something harder. "Sit down, Maya," my father said, and the formality in his voice made my stomach drop. They'd received a call, an anonymous tip, someone claiming I'd been seen at a protest that had turned violent downtown, that I'd been arrested for vandalism and assault. The caller had details: the color of the jacket I'd supposedly worn, the time, the location. My parents had already contacted the police department. There had indeed been an arrest that night, and my name was on the report. "It wasn't me," I said immediately, my voice rising with panic I couldn't control. "Dad, Mom, I was at the library. I was studying for my licensing exam. There are cameras." "The police confirmed your name," Marcus interrupted, his voice cold. "They have your ID information on file. Then someone stole my identity. This is a mistake. Please, you have to believe me." My mother looked away. That's when I knew, in that single gesture, I understood that something fundamental had broken. She didn't believe me. None of them did. The next weeks were a nightmare of bureaucracy and disbelief. I hired a lawyer I couldn't afford, provided the library footage showing me bent over textbooks while the protest raged across town, submitted to interviews and polygraphs. The truth emerged slowly, painfully. A woman with a similar name, Maya Patel instead of Maya Patterson, had been arrested. An administrative error had briefly linked her record to my information. It was corrected. My name was cleared. The official apology letter arrived on thick government letterhead. I brought it to my parents, hands shaking with relief and residual fear, expecting tears, apologies, tight embraces, acknowledging the horror of what I'd endured. Instead, my father glanced at the letter and set it on the coffee table. "Well," he said, "that's resolved then." That was all. No apology for their doubt. No acknowledgement of the pain their disbelief had caused. When I asked through tears why they hadn't trusted me, my mother said quietly, "You have to understand, Maya. We heard your name. We saw the police report. What were we supposed to think?" "That I was telling the truth," I whispered. "That your daughter wouldn't lie to you." My father stood, signaling the conversation was over. "Let's just move past this. Everyone makes mistakes." But I hadn't made the mistake. They had, and they couldn't admit it. The exile was gradual, not a dramatic severing, but a slow fade. My opinions carried less weight at family dinners. My achievements, passing my licensing exam, landing my first job at a community center, were met with distracted congratulations. When Marcus got promoted, there was a dinner party. When I received an award for my work with at-risk youth, my mother sent a text. "That's nice, dear." The real cut came when Marcus announced his engagement to Rebecca, a corporate lawyer from a wealthy family. The wedding planning consumed every family gathering. I was included in the group chat but rarely consulted. When I suggested ideas, they were politely ignored. When I offered to help with arrangements, I was told they had it covered. At the engagement party, I stood alone by the refreshment table while my parents laughed with Rebecca's family, while Marcus's friends congratulated him, while everyone who mattered orbited a sun that had stopped shining on me. My Aunt Carol approached, wine glass in hand. You seem lonely, sweetheart. I'm fine, I lied. She studied me with eyes that saw too much. You know, your parents talk about Marcus all the time. His career, his wedding, his wonderful Rebecca. They barely mention you anymore. The observation, delivered with absent-minded cruelty, landed like a physical blow. I excused myself to the bathroom and cried silently in a stall, pressing toilet paper to my eyes so my makeup wouldn't run. When I emerged, composed and smiling, no one noticed I'd been gone. I stopped trying so hard after that. Stopped suggesting family outings, stopped calling with stories from work, stopped hoping this dinner or that holiday would be the one where they saw me again, really saw me. I showed up when expected, played my role, and built a life they knew nothing about. My work at the community center became my sanctuary. The kids I counseled, many from broken homes themselves, became my purpose. I poured everything into them, my energy, my compassion, my thwarted need to be valued. I took on extra shifts, ran support groups, wrote grant proposals at midnight. My supervisor, an older woman named Patricia, noticed. "You're running yourself ragged," she said one evening, finding me alone in the office at 9 p.m. "I don't mind. This matters." "It does. But so do you." She sat across from me, her expression gentle. "Maya, you can't save everyone. I'm not trying to save everyone, just the ones who need it." "The ones like you?" she asked softly. I didn't answer, but she knew. She saw what my family couldn't or wouldn't, that I was drowning in the need to prove my worth, to demonstrate through sheer force of good works that I was valuable, trustworthy, deserving of love. Years blurred together. I dated occasionally, but nothing stuck. How could I build intimacy with someone when my own family kept me at arm's length? I moved to a small apartment across town, closer to work. My parents visited once, stayed 20 minutes, and never came back. Marcus stopped by when he needed something, a favor, advice on a gift for Rebecca, then disappeared back into his golden life. I went to therapy, learned words like scapegoat and emotional abandonment, understood intellectually that their inability to admit their mistake had calcified into a need to justify their original doubt, which required maintaining distance from me. If they let me back in, fully in, they'd have to confront what they'd done. It was easier to keep me in exile. Understanding didn't stop the hurt, but it helped me breathe through it. 5 years into my exile, Patricia called me into her office with news that changed everything. The community center had been awarded a massive federal grant, but it came with a requirement. We needed to expand our programs and prove sustainable growth within 3 years. "I'm retiring," Patricia said, "and I'm recommending you as my replacement." "Me?" I stared at her. "Patricia, I'm only 28. And you're the best advocate these kids have ever had. You write grants that make board members cry. You've tripled our enrollment. You belong in this chair, Maya." I took the position terrified and determined. The work consumed me. Strategic planning, fundraising, hiring staff, navigating politics and bureaucracy. I discovered I was good at it, better than good. The programs flourished. We expanded from 1 location to 3. National organizations took notice. Invitations to speak at conferences arrived. My salary increased, then increased again. I bought a small house in an up-and-coming neighborhood, nothing fancy but mine. Painted the walls colors I chose, planted a garden, adopted a cat named Justice. Built a life that felt full even if it was lonely. My family knew none of this. They knew I still worked with troubled kids, because I'd mentioned it once and never elaborated when they didn't ask follow-up questions. They didn't know about the awards, the speaking engagements, the feature article in a professional journal. Why would they? They'd stopped asking about my life the same year they'd stopped believing in me. The wedding invitation marked year 10. A decade of exile. I RSVP'd yes, because not going would create the scene my mother feared, and despite everything, I still carried the exhausting burden of trying not to disappoint them. I bought a gift from their registry, a set of crystal wine glasses that cost more than I wanted to spend. I bought a dress that made me feel beautiful, even though I'd be invisible anyway. The wedding was elegant, expensive, exactly what Rebecca wanted. I sat in the 3rd row, close enough to see but far enough to be forgettable. Watched Marcus's face as Rebecca walked down the aisle, saw genuine love there, and felt my heart crack a little more. Not jealousy. I was happy for him, truly. But grief for what I'd lost. what had been taken from me through no fault of my own. At the reception, I was seated at a table with distant cousins who didn't remember my name. My parents held court at the head table, glowing with pride. My mother's speech about her son bringing tears to guests' eyes. No mention of their daughter, the social worker, the quiet one in the corner who'd learned to take up as little space as possible. I left early, claiming a headache no one questioned, drove home in my sensible car to my small house, and changed out of my expensive dress. Fed Justice, made tea, sat in my garden under the stars, and let myself cry. Not dramatic sobs, just quiet tears for the family I'd lost, the girl I'd been who'd believed her parents would always choose her. I'm done, I whispered to the night. Not angry, just exhausted. Done hoping, done hurting. Done. Life, as it does, continued. Summer turned to fall. I threw myself into work. We were launching a new after-school program that would serve 200 additional kids. The board approached me about opening a fourth location. An old college friend, now a producer, asked if I'd be interested in consulting on a documentary about youth services. I said yes to everything, filling my days so completely there was no room for the hollow ache of familial rejection. Then, on a Tuesday morning in late October, Patricia called. She'd retired but stayed connected to the field, serving on various boards and committees. Maya, are you sitting down? Should I be? The Morrison Foundation is giving you their humanitarian award. Maya, it's a $100,000 prize and national recognition. The ceremony's in December. They'll fly you to New York, put you up at a hotel, there'll be press coverage. I sat down. The news went public a week later. Articles appeared in professional journals. Then local news picked it up. Local woman wins prestigious national award. My phone exploded with congratulatory messages from colleagues, former professors, kids I'd worked with over the years. The community center threw a surprise celebration. The mayor sent a letter. My family sent nothing. Not a text, not a call, not even a Facebook like. Silence. I told myself I didn't care, that I'd accepted their disinterest years ago. I told myself their validation didn't matter. I was lying. The award ceremony was in 3 weeks. I bought a gown, booked my flight, prepared my acceptance speech. The documentary friend wanted to film it. The local news wanted to interview me before I left. My small life was suddenly very public, and I felt exposed in ways I hadn't anticipated. Then, 5 days before I was supposed to leave for New York, my mother called. Maya. Her voice was tight, strained. We need to talk. Can we come over? Come over where? To your place. Your father and I, we need to see you. 10 years of living 20 minutes away. And she didn't know where. Didn't know I'd bought a house. Didn't know my address. The realization must have shown in my silence. I can text you the address, I said finally. They arrived the next afternoon. I'd taken a personal day, unable to focus at work knowing this conversation was coming. I cleaned my house obsessively, then hated myself for caring what they thought. Brewed coffee I knew my mother liked. Arranged cookies on a plate like I was hosting strangers. The doorbell rang at 2 p.m. exactly. My father was never late. I opened the door to find both parents standing stiff and uncomfortable on my porch. My mother's eyes widened as she took in the house behind me, the gleaming hardwood floors, the artwork on the walls, the architectural details of the 1920s craftsman I'd lovingly restored. This is yours, she asked. You live here? For 3 years now. Come in. They entered like visitors to a museum, taking in every detail. The built-in bookshelves I'd refinished myself. The modern kitchen visible through the archway. The garden blooming with late-season flowers through the back windows. I saw my mother calculating costs, my father noting the quality of the renovation. We sat in the living room, coffee untouched between us. Justice appeared, rubbed against my father's leg, and was ignored. You've done well for yourself, my father said finally. I've worked hard. We saw the news, my mother said. About the award. We wanted to. We're proud of you. The words I'd craved for a decade, delivered with all the warmth of a business transaction. I waited for the follow-up I knew was coming. We were surprised we didn't hear about it from you directly, my father added. We had to learn about our daughter's achievement from the newspaper. And there it was. The gentle accusation, the subtle shift making me responsible for their ignorance of my life. I didn't think you'd be interested, I said quietly. Of course we're interested. You're our daughter. Am I? The question escaped before I could stop it, because for 10 years, I felt more like an obligation. My mother's face tightened. That's not fair, Maya. Isn't it? When was the last time you asked about my work, my life? When was the last time you visited? You didn't even know where I lived until yesterday. You could have invited us, my father said. You withdrew from the family. We gave you space. I withdrew? My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. I was exiled. You stopped believing in me, stopped trusting me, and when the truth came out, when I was proven innocent, you couldn't even apologize. Do you know what that did to me? We made a mistake, my mother said quickly. We've acknowledged that. No, you haven't. You've never apologized. Not once in 10 years have you looked me in the eye and said you were sorry for doubting me. Silence. My father's jaw worked. My mother looked at her hands. We came here to talk about the ceremony, my father said finally. We'd like to come. To support you. Marcus and Rebecca want to come too. Marcus knows. I hadn't told him. Hadn't told any of them. Rebecca saw it online. They're very excited for you. Of course they were. Now that I was publicly successful, nationally recognized, I was worth acknowledging. My worth had a price tag. Prestige, reflected glory, the ability to tell their friends, our daughter won this prestigious award. Why now, I asked. Why after 10 years of barely acknowledging my existence, do you suddenly want to be involved? That's not fair, my mother repeated. We've always been there. Where? I demanded. Where were you when I graduated with my master's degree? You came to the ceremony but left right after, didn't even stay for dinner. Where were you when I won my first award 5 years ago, when I bought this house, when I was promoted? You weren't there because you never asked. You stopped caring about my life the day you decided I might be the kind of person who'd lie to you. We said we made a mistake, my father said, his voice rising now. What more do you want? An apology, acknowledgement that what you did was wrong, some sign that you understand you broke my heart and never even tried to repair it. My mother stood abruptly. We came here to extend an olive branch, and you're throwing it back in our faces. You came here because I'm finally successful enough to be worth your time, because having a daughter with a national award looks good. But you don't actually care about me, do you? Just what I represent. That's enough, Maya, my father said coldly, standing as well. We're your parents. You owe us respect. I respected you. I loved you. I trusted you. And you threw it away because you couldn't admit you were wrong. They left. The door closed behind them with a soft click that felt like finality. I sat in my living room, surrounded by the life I'd built without them, and cried harder than I had in years. Not for what I'd lost. I'd mourned that already. But for the definitive end of hope. I'd finally said what I needed to say, and nothing had changed. I went to New York alone, walked the red carpet alone, sat at the gala dinner with colleagues and industry leaders who knew my work, valued my contributions, saw me. The award was heavy in my hands, the standing ovation thunderous. I gave my speech about the kids we serve, the importance of believing in people others have given up on, the power of second chances. The irony wasn't lost on me. The local news ran a feature when I returned. The documentary Friends production company wanted to develop a series about the community center. Invitations poured in, speaking engagements, consulting opportunities, board positions. My small life became a public one, and I navigated it with the same determination I'd brought to building programs. One step at a time, proving myself, earning what I'd been denied at home. My family sent a congratulations card, signed by all four of them. Nothing personal, just a generic message anyone could have written. I threw it away. Weeks passed. December arrived cold and clear. I focused on holiday programming at the center, gift drives, special events, making sure our kids knew they mattered. My team surprised me with a party, presentations from grateful families, a plaque declaring me Guardian Angel of the Year. I cried, hugged everyone, and felt a warmth I'd been chasing for a decade. Then, 2 days before Christmas, Marcus called. Maya, we need your help. His voice was strained, urgent in a way I'd never heard. What's wrong? Rebecca and we're in trouble. Financial trouble. Her firm downsized. She got laid off. I made some bad investments. We're going to lose the house. Can we meet? An hour later, Marcus and Rebecca sat in my living room where my parents had sat months before, taking in the same details with the same surprise. But where my parents had looked calculating, my brother looked desperate. "We need to borrow money," he said bluntly, $200,000, just for a few months until we get back on our feet. I stared at him. $200,000. I know it's a lot, but you have it, right? With the award and your salary, please, Maya, you're my sister. "I am your sister," I said slowly. "The sister you barely spoke to for 10 years. The sister whose achievements you ignored, whose life you showed no interest in. And now you need something, so here you are." Rebecca flinched. Marcus had the grace to look ashamed. "I know I haven't been the best brother," he said, "but we're family. Family helps each other." "Does it?" "Because when I needed my family to believe in me, to trust me, to stand by me, where were you? You believed the worst about me without question. You watched our parents exile me and said nothing. You built your perfect life and let me disappear from it." "I was young," Marcus protested. "I didn't understand. You were 25, old enough to know better, old enough to call your sister, to ask her side of the story, to offer support. But you didn't. None of you did." "So you're going to punish us now?" Rebecca asked, her voice sharp with desperation. "Refuse to help because of something that happened a decade ago?" "I'm not punishing you. I'm simply not rescuing you. There's a difference." Marcus stood, angry now. "You know what? Everyone was right about you. You're cold. You're bitter. You've held on to this grudge for 10 years instead of moving on like an adult. I moved on by building a life without you. You're the ones who can't move on from expecting me to be available whenever you need something while giving nothing in return." "We're going to lose everything," Rebecca said, tears now. "Our house, our savings, everything we worked for. I'm sorry you're going through that. Truly I am. But I worked for what I have too. And I did it without family support, without encouragement, without anyone believing in me. You'll figure it out. You're resourceful people." They left angry, Marcus slamming the door. I sat in the quiet aftermath feeling not victorious but hollow. I didn't want revenge. I never had. I just wanted acknowledgement, apology, some recognition of the pain they'd caused. What I got was confirmation that I'd always been right. I was valuable to them only when I could provide something they needed. Christmas came and went. I spent it volunteering at a shelter, serving meals to families with nowhere else to go. It felt more meaningful than any family gathering I'd endured. Then, in January, my mother called again. This time, her voice was different, smaller, uncertain. "Maya, I need to tell you something. Can I come see you?" She arrived alone, looking older than I remembered. We sat in my living room again, this space that had witnessed so many painful conversations. "Your father and I are separating," she said without preamble. "I filed for divorce." I hadn't expected that. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It's been coming for years." She twisted her hands in her lap. "Marcus told us about your conversation, about how you refused to help them." "I didn't refuse. I declined. There's a difference." "I know." She looked up, met my eyes. "He was angry, said terrible things about you, and your father agreed with him. Said you'd become selfish, ungrateful. And I realized I was listening to them judge you the same way we judged you 10 years ago, making assumptions, believing the worst." She paused, breathed deeply. I went back and read the police report from that night, the original one. I hadn't looked at it in years. And the apology letter. And I sat with what we did to you, really sat with it, maybe for the first time. Tears spilled down her cheeks. We destroyed you. Our doubt, our refusal to apologize, our inability to admit we were wrong. We destroyed our relationship with you. And you kept trying. For years, you kept trying to reach us, and we kept pushing you away because facing what we'd done was too painful. I'm so sorry, Maya. I'm so desperately sorry. I felt nothing. The apology I'd craved for a decade, finally here. And I felt only numbness. Why now, I asked. Why after 10 years, after all this time, do you suddenly see it? Because I watched your father and brother judge you again, and I saw the pattern. We made you wrong to justify our mistake. We kept you at a distance to avoid our guilt. And we never stopped. We just kept finding new ways to make you the problem so we didn't have to be accountable. She wiped her eyes. Leaving your father is the hardest thing I've ever done, but staying would mean continuing to be the person who failed you. I can't do that anymore. What do you want from me? I asked quietly. Nothing. I don't want anything. I just wanted you to know that I see now what I did. I understand what I took from you. And I'm sorry. Even if you can never forgive me, I needed you to hear that. We sat in silence. Justice jumped onto my lap, purring. My mother watched the cat, this small detail of my life she'd never known about. I've missed so much, she said softly. I don't even know you anymore. No, I agreed. You don't? Would you? Could I get to know you now? If you're willing. I understand if you're not. I thought about it. Thought about 10 years of pain, of exile, of building a life around the hole where family should have been. Thought about forgiveness and whether I was capable of it. Thought about the cycle of hurt and whether I wanted to perpetuate it or break it. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe, eventually. But Mom, I need you to understand. You can't just apologize and have everything go back to how it was. It never was good. That's the truth. Even before the arrest mix-up, I was never Marcus. Never the golden child. You loved me, but you didn't value me the same way. She didn't deny it. You're right. You were always so independent, so self-sufficient. And we took that for granted. Gave our attention to Marcus because he demanded it. I thought you were fine on your own. I wasn't fine. I needed you. I needed you to believe in me. I know that now. Too late, but I know it. We didn't resolve everything that day. Couldn't. Too much damage, too many years. But my mother started coming by every few weeks. Tentative visits where she asked questions about my work, my life, my dreams. Listened when I talked about the kids I worked with, the programs we were developing, the documentaries being filmed, met Justice properly, saw my garden. She didn't ask for forgiveness, didn't push for reconciliation, just showed up consistently, proving through action what words couldn't. My father and Marcus I didn't hear from. Marcus and Rebecca lost their house, moved to a smaller place, rebuilt slowly. I heard updates through my mother, but felt no satisfaction in their struggles. I'd meant what I said. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted them to understand consequence. Spring came, then summer. The documentary premiered to strong reviews, bringing more attention to the center's work. We secured funding for a fifth location. I was invited to speak at a congressional hearing about youth services. My small, quiet life had become something I never imagined, built on the foundation of being underestimated and exiled. In August, on the anniversary of that long-ago arrest mix-up, my mother brought a box to my house. I've been going through old things, she said. Found these. Photos. Hundreds of them. Me at every age, every milestone. Birthday parties, school plays, graduations. My mother had documented everything, even when I thought she wasn't paying attention. I was always proud of you, she said quietly. I just didn't know how to show it. Didn't think I needed to because you seemed so strong. I took your strength for granted and never realized it came from having to be strong because we weren't supporting you. We went through the photos together. She told me stories I'd forgotten or never known, how I'd advocated for a bullied classmate in third grade, how I'd organized a fundraiser for a sick neighbor in high school, how even before my social work career, I'd been drawn to helping others. You were always this person, she said, pointing to a photo of teenage me at a soup kitchen, always fighting for people who needed someone in their corner. And when you needed someone in yours, we failed you. Yes, I said simply, you did. I can't fix it, can't undo it, but I'm here now if you'll have me. Not as your mother who expects gratitude and obedience, but as someone who wants to know the amazing woman you became in spite of us. It wasn't redemption, wasn't a fairy tale reconciliation, but it was honest, and honesty was something I'd been denied for too long. We built something new, my mother and I, not parent and child, but two adults finding their way toward connection. She volunteered at the community center, saw firsthand the work that had sustained me through exile, met my colleagues, my friends, the chosen family I'd built, started calling not just to check in but to share her own struggles with divorce, with rebuilding her identity, with facing what she'd been. In October, a full year after winning the Morrison Award, I was invited back to give the keynote speech at their annual conference. My mother came with me to New York, sat in the audience as I talked about resilience, about building meaning from pain, about the importance of believing in people even when they've been wrongly accused. After the speech, as we walked through autumn Manhattan streets, she asked the question I'd been waiting for. Do you forgive me? I thought about it carefully. I'm working toward it. Some days I'm closer than others. But forgiveness isn't an event, Mom. It's a process. And it requires you to keep showing up, keep being honest, keep acknowledging the hurt. Can you do that? Yes, she said immediately. For however long it takes. Then we'll get there. Eventually. We walked in companionable silence, and I felt something loosen in my chest. Not forgiveness yet, but space for it to grow. The hard edges of my hurt softening into something more like sadness, the sharp bitterness mellowing into understanding that people fail each other, and sometimes, if both parties are willing, they can find their way back to something resembling trust. My father, I heard from once, briefly. A letter, formal and uncomfortable, acknowledging he'd handled things poorly and hoped I was doing well. No real apology, no acknowledgement of specific harms. I didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, leave ashes too toxic to rebuild on. Marcus surprised me by showing up at the community center one afternoon in December, 2 years since our confrontation, and he looked different, humbled, tired, older in ways that went beyond physical age. I don't expect you to talk to me, he said. I just wanted to see this place, see what you built. I gave him a tour because the center was public space, and I couldn't deny him. Watched him watch the kids in art class, teens in the computer lab, families in the food pantry. You saved all these people, he said. No, I gave them resources. They saved themselves. Like you did. Saved yourself when we abandoned you. It wasn't an apology, but it was acknowledgement. I accepted it as such. I can't loan you money, I said. I need you to understand that's not ever happening. I know, that's not why I'm here. Rebecca and I are divorced now. I lost a lot. The house, half my savings, my pride. But I learned something about being humiliated, being judged, having everyone think the worst of you. Learned what you must have felt. You're not me, Marcus. You made bad financial decisions. I was falsely accused and abandoned by my family. It's not the same. No. But it taught me empathy I didn't have before. Taught me what we did to you. I'm sorry, Maya. I'm genuinely sorry. I was a coward who took the easy path of believing the worst because it was simpler than defending you. I watched our parents exile you and said nothing because it didn't affect me. I'm sorry. I looked at my brother, seeing the brokenness in him that I recognized in myself. Not the same wounds, but wounds nonetheless. I accept your apology, I said. But we're not okay, Marcus. We're not going to be siblings who have dinners and share holidays. Too much is broken. I know. I just wanted you to hear that I finally understand what I participated in. What I did to you, I'm trying to be better now, for what it's worth. It's worth something, I said. Not everything, but something. He left. I didn't expect to hear from him again, and didn't need to. The apology had been for him as much as me, a step in his journey toward becoming whoever he was trying to be after losing everything. I wished him well and felt nothing but a mild hope he'd find his way. My mother continued showing up, became a fixture at the center, beloved by the kids for her quiet patience. We had dinner every few weeks, slow conversations rebuilding understanding, if not full trust. She never asked about my father or Marcus, respecting that those relationships were mine to navigate or not. On the 2-year anniversary of that confrontation in my living room, we sat in my garden drinking tea as autumn leaves fell around us. Do you think about what your life would have been like if we'd believed you? She asked. Sometimes, but I can't dwell there. This is the life I have. And despite everything, it's good. I help people. I matter to them. I've built something meaningful. You have. You've built something extraordinary. She set down her cup. I think about it all the time. What you could have been with our support instead of our rejection. Maybe nothing different. Maybe exactly this. We'll never know. Does that bother you? Not knowing? I thought about it honestly. Not anymore. It used to. For years I was haunted by the what-ifs. What if you'd believed me? What if you'd apologized immediately? What if I'd been welcomed instead of exiled? But those questions just kept me trapped in the past. Now I focus on what is, not what could have been. You're wiser than I ever was. I had to be. I didn't have the luxury of being protected by family support. I had to figure things out alone. She flinched but didn't look away from the truth. Yes, and I hate that we did that to you. I know, and I'm learning to accept that you understand now, even